Today's Friday, it's the 20th of September, it's 2024, and I'm actually in Palma Nova at the moment. But I've got a little bit of news for you, a bit of a news update, and I've got some facts and figures which hopefully we'll try to do some interpretation. I was receiving a message just the other day from Alan, who said that a friend of his was visiting in August and wanted to go into Palma, but waited at the bus stop. The bus sailed past full. I've read other people's messages with similar grievances saying that the buses are going past full. That would seem to give an indication that Palma, Mallorca is pretty full and very busy. Yet when I was in Magaluf yesterday, I was speaking to Kathy, who's got Sinky's bar there, and they were saying how quiet August had been. We're expecting to pick up, but at the moment it seemed to have been fairly quiet. So what's the truth of the situation? Well, Europa Press published some statistics for the island this week, and they're interesting reading, I think. So the Balearic Islands received, and I'm just reading this now, 11 million international air travellers up until August of this year. That's 6.8% more than last year. So how does that all work out? What happens in that? According to the same data, in August alone, the three islands of Majorca, Menorca and Ibiza received nearly 2.5 million. So that's 6% more than the same month of 2023. And Palma, if we just look at Palma on its own, in August received 1.7 million. That's another increase of 6% year on year. So we're getting more tourists. Number of passengers in Spain particularly rose, and certain countries are a bit surprising. The number of Polish people coming, or people coming from Poland, I guess they were mostly Polish, was nearly 40% up. United States of America, 16% up, and other countries, 12% up. In the United Kingdom, 2.6 million international passengers generated 23.6% of the total flow in Spain, and that was an increase of 8.1%. So more tourists are coming, more people are travelling to Mallorca, more people are travelling to Spain for their holidays. But it does seem that they're not necessarily going out and spending money in bars, but they may be getting on the bus and going into Palma to have a look around. I wonder what the shops are saying in Palma. Are they doing more business? Earlier on in the year, we were having protests, and nothing much has happened recently. I think there might have been something in August while we were away, but we're halfway through September and it's all gone very quiet again. So has it had any effect? Well, it doesn't seem to have had any effect this year on the number of holiday people coming. Maybe they booked in January when there was no talk about this, so maybe it'll have an effect for next year. Again, time will tell. What the protests did in fact manage to do was to persuade the government to actually do something about the problem of having so many tourists on the island, and in the wrong sorts of places. And this week I've seen in the paper that a fine of €1,360,000 has been given for just 2 buildings in Palma that were renting illegally to tourists. So these 2 buildings actually represented 17 apartments, and they were being marketed as tourist apartments but didn't have a license. So they've now got over €1 million to pay in fines, and well, that could well bankrupt some of the people, some of the owners of those. So we are starting to see some strict measures of clamping down on illegal tourist rent. So if you are booking a holiday next year, just make sure it's a genuine one. If it's a hotel, you're pretty safe, but if it's an apartment, then you need to really make sure that they've got that license where they can actually rent it to you. There have also been in the government a plan to restrict sale of homes to non-residents, and I have spoken about this in a previous video, that one of the smaller parties was saying that we shouldn't really be selling our houses and apartments to foreigners. It should be sold to people who live on the island, and they wanted people who've been residents on the island to take priority. So you needed to have lived on the island. They were suggesting maybe 3 years or 5 years before you could actually buy. Before that, you'd have to rent somewhere. Well, that's been thrown out. The whole idea has been thrown out, and that's not going to be going any further at all. So foreigners don't need to worry about buying a property here. At least for the foreseeable future, that's going to happen. One interesting thing was one of the proponents of this, one of the councillors in the Parliament in Mallorca here, has actually sold his house to a German. So, yeah, very good. Other things in the news, one of the things that I've been talking about over the years now, it's been, I suppose, two and a half, 3 years, is hydrogen. Hydrogen is a gas which is highly flammable, and it's a great fuel because it is very clean and there's lots of it around. And in Majorca, up near to Inca, they built a hydrogen plant which was going to make green hydrogen. Green not as in the colour, but green as in the environmentally friendly type. So what they did, they put up lots of solar panels on an old cement site. The cement site became unused, and so they were looking for things to do, and this was one of the proposals. So they put the solar panels there, and they were going to use the electricity from the solar panels in order to generate electricity to split water up into hydrogen and oxygen, both very useful materials. Oxygen obviously got its uses, as well as the hydrogen, which is a highly flammable gas and can be used for combustion. They then bought a fleet, about half a dozen buses, which were going to run on the hydrogen, and the hydrogen was going to be used from the Majorca plant for these buses to run in Palma. Well, within no time at all, almost days, the plant broke down, the electrolytic cells broke, and they couldn't produce the hydrogen, which meant the 6 buses are costing €1 million each, so €6 million worth of buses ended up sitting in the bus station, and they've been there for the last 2 years, not rolling a wheel. And so no passengers have actually been on these buses yet. And the plan to pipe the gas to Alcudia area into the hotels, well, all of that had to be shelved. Well, they looked at getting them repaired. That seemed to not be feasible. There's something wrong with the design of the fuel cells. So they've now installed a new set of fuel cells, and they've put some more solar panels, and there is another plant up, and this week it went into operation, and hopefully it will be much more successful than the one from 2.5 years ago. The hydrogen now is going to be fed up into the natural gas system. So the natural gas system that already exists on the island network will have hydrogen mixed with the natural gas, and they are hoping to produce 300 tons of hydrogen a year. That's an awful lot of hydrogen. Hydrogen is the lightest gas of all, and so 300 tons of it is going to be an awful lot of that hydrogen. And that's going to offset something like 21,000 tons of CO2 that might be put into the atmosphere had they not been putting the hydrogen in. That's really great news. I'm really quite excited about it, and hope it all works as well as it should work. It's a straightforward process. It's done in other places, and it will clean up a little bit of the atmosphere for us here in Mallorca. On the same note, but in a completely different area, a Middle Eastern company has bought up a lot of land in the southeast of the island with a plan to build a similar hydrogen producing plant. So again, solar panels, and the solar panels will produce the electricity to split the water up into hydrogen and oxygen. Apologies for the noise that's going on around me. I'm in a park, and that sounds exciting. The only thing I'm a little bit concerned about is that they were putting a plant in there, in their plan, for the production of ammonia. Ammonia is a completely different gas. It's really important because it's what provides us with fertilizers, and without it we'd have a great deal of difficulty providing enough food and growing enough produce without the nitrogen from the ammonia. Well, they wanted to have that with the hydrogen, and ammonia seems a little bit too industrial to me. It's made by a process called the Haber process, and it requires a lot of industrial machinery. I would like to see the plans a lot more clearly set out, so I knew exactly what they're going to be producing there. But anyway, if that happens, then maybe we'll see another hydrogen plant on the island. Sticking with the environmental, water is always in the news. We're on an island which doesn't have great water resources. Our water comes from aquifers deep below the ground, and a report in the papers this week is saying that some municipalities, more than half of the water just goes to waste. They've got leaky pipes, and one area in particular, Campos, which is down on the southeast, is losing 70% of its water. Other places are much more efficient, but Campos seems to need to get their act together, as most of the water that they've been producing actually gets run away into the land around it, which is a really sad state of affairs, considering we don't have too much water. That could change this weekend. Tomorrow we're due some heavy storms. They're predicting 25 litres per square metre in an hour, so that's quite a lot of water going to be coming down in a fairly short space of time. When we look at the map, this is done by the Met Office of Spain, and they put it green and yellow. Green means we're not going to get so much in the way of rain. Yellow means you need to be watching out. And the yellow areas are all in the northeast and east coast of the island. Here in Palma Nova, down in the southwest, we should be okay, but do keep your eye on the weather forecast. Hopefully we'll miss out. So that's tomorrow, that's Saturday, and on into Sunday. We're actually planning to go to the north of the island on Sunday. Well, we'll see. And finally, just a little bit of news about the football. We went to the football match on Monday night, and it was Real Sociedad and Mallorca. And Mallorca won. We won 1-0. It was a penalty. Abdon Prat scored a goal, and he was really over the moon. The team were over the moon. And well, it gives us those 3 golden points, which shifts us up into the top half of the table. I know we have not played many matches and there are not many points yet, but it just gives you that better feeling when you're in the top half of the table. Next 3 matches are all away matches, and so we won't be going down to the Mallorca Stadium to watch them, though we will be going down hopefully to the new Mallorca Cafe, which is called the Mallorca Sports Bar, giving that another go and hopefully be able to watch the matches on the big screens that they've got there, and look forward to some good results. Well, that's the news from the Mallorca. As soon as I get from me here in Mallorca, and hopefully we'll have some more news for you. I'll try to give you mainly the good news. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. So bye for now.